boss is back.
The boss is back. The URBONUS podcast from Vilnius studio with the full squad is also back. We're actually on a pace of EuroLeague teams. You know, one guy is missing from time to time, every once a week or something. I would say that the average EuroLeague team is also missing like one or two players in every game, if we would put any average on that.
Efes fans might argue with this. They're not missing one player, I think, every week, playing 7 guys. But hey.
But usually you sign pretty good replacements when there's someone missing.
Or I'm just playing, you know, you two guys, and I'm happy with the results. So you can't go wrong when you go with Rytis and Augustas. So welcome to the URBONUS podcast. Unusual timing because this Christmas time, New Year time, the trips that I had, kind of the Augustas also had some time off. It kind of confused the whole rhythm of the URBONUS podcast, but we're about to get back on track, at least for the few upcoming weeks. And we're coming off a night where we had 7 games, and many of them, of course, clashing each other. And as I spoke with Paulius Matiūnas, the EuroLeague CEO, it doesn't feel that we're going to have a change. But if you want to hear more about that, actually, we just published the 40-minute conversation with Paulius Matiūnas that you can watch on BasketNews.com channel. We spoke about a lot of topics, including concerns over Maccabi potentially clashing Fenerbahce, for instance, in the playoffs. We spoke about Dubai, if they're ready to join the league as soon as the next season already. We spoke about 2 Belgrade teams aiming for wild cards, long-term licenses, and what they need to do in order to get that confidence from the league, and a lot of other stuff. But for sure, we'll cover some of these games of this 7-game schedule. But let's start with the hottest topic of the week: trades. EuroLeague. How to put it? Because there were a lot of miscommunication, a lot of misconception about this whole thing that was brought up. And it actually goes not just through fans, not just social media, but also the players. But the fact is that the executive director of the EuroLeague head coaches board, Goran Sasic, mentioned that, quote unquote, we conclude we need to distribute this responsibility for the results evenly, and we will work with the EuroLeague and ELPA to introduce a trade principle that could be applied for the next season so that clubs can exchange players. And the whole European basketball just went crazy. Trades, most of them, they don't want trades. A lot of overreactions, although the reality is that it's just the start of the brainstorming process. There are no decisions. There's no such thing as let's do trades on EuroLeague's agenda, on EuroLeague's table. And this is just the idea coming off coaches board, which will need to go through a lot of filters, through a lot of discussions with ELPA, with the EuroLeague, and then we'll see if it's possible to do something. But when you heard this topic brought on, what were your first reactions, your first thoughts, and would you see a scenario where we could have trade system in Europe?
Rytis was skeptical on Twitter.
Yeah, I mean, first of all, I had a lot of questions about it. Like, why do we need that? What good does it bring to the league? And how will that work in practice? Because, well, first of all, NBA is North American league where you have 29 American teams and 1 Canadian team. So basically, I know state laws and state taxes differ, but still they are teams from the same country. Here you have teams from all over Europe. The laws are different everywhere. The taxes are different. So if you trade someone's contract, it doesn't necessarily mean he gets the same amount of money, let's say when he plays for Monaco, or when he will join a German team or Italian team, or whatever. The second question is, do the players have a say in it? Or is it like the team just can trade you and one morning you wake up ready for practice in, I don't know, Belgrade or Madrid, and then you get a phone call saying that, pack your bags, we're going to Kaunas. I think players wouldn't want that. I mean, most of them, let's say they are from other countries, they bring their families, they try to find a school for their kids and stuff like that, and they don't want to get traded and sent to some other country when they establish some kind of life in Istanbul, Madrid, Barcelona, or Tel Aviv, or any other city they are playing in. So that's another question. The third one is, like, we have a league that doesn't have a salary cap system. It doesn't have a draft system like
Draft
the NBA.
assets, yeah.
So do we see that many scenarios where two GMs are talking and one is saying like, we need a point guard and you need a center, so give me this guy and I'll give you this guy and we'll both be happy? I don't really see that. I mean, it's not like you can't trade players now. I mean, you can find agreements. Let's say someone terminates contract and he will join your team and we will take the other guy. It's like we saw players moving now between clubs. It's not trades. It's still more of a free agency market or a buyout market. So once they establish this whole idea with all the points, how will that work? What will be the system? Will there be a salary cap? Will the players be able to, let's say, veto the trade or add a no trade clause to their contract, which never was a thing in Europe? On top of that, EuroLeague teams are still competing in their national championships. I mean, it's not a closed league still, so you imply some rules for your own league, and I don't know how that will work, and I don't know if we need that. Maybe you have more insight about it, so you could share that.
Nobody cares about insight and the real information. We need reactions. So let's start from reactions, okay? What was also Augustas' reaction?
This is why this podcast
Because nobody is checking facts, actually. Everybody is just
I would love to know
some
stuff. I would love to know some facts. There were no facts on the actual announcement.
This is not the first time I'm seeing this. You know, he wants us to give reactions, and then he's just you guys, this is all wrong. You know, I have the insight. But
I'm just asking questions. I didn't state any.
I agree with you.
Anything.
I agree with your points completely. I think it's way too early and seriously to talk about trades, actually, because as you mentioned, you need salary cap first and foremost, and you know, without that, I can't imagine any trades happening soon. But one point I wanted to be against, you said. Rytis mentioned that, you know, I don't think there is one team who needs forwards and another who needs guards. I think this season we saw some teams signing too many forwards, you know, like Zvezda or like Milano. And let's say Panathinaikos could have had some guys in the guard position to lend to these guys, to lend to these teams, especially to Milano, for example. And they could have made trades, but that wasn't possible because Kevin Pangos couldn't just, you know, manage his contract situation. So basically that was the problem. I thought some teams could have definitely benefited from some trades. Žalgiris, for example, one of those teams being. And so I think, and these trades, as in like just a thing, an object, it will be good for the EuroLeague, for the content, for teams to have flexibility to sign guys, because we saw how thin is the market right now. And the market is only going to get thinner because I think a lot of other regions are having much more money. So you have a smaller player pool. So trades would kind of help teams to I don't know, deal with injuries early in the season, especially. But on the other side, if you sign with Valencia and you are traded to Žalgiris Kaunas
against your will,
probably not going to be happy. I know the same is, you know, even if you play in the NBA, but the difference with the NBA is you have much longer contracts there, and the money you actually get is much bigger on average. So you
sign up for this the day you enter the league, like, you know, that's gonna happen. That might happen to you at some point of your career. And in the EuroLeague, you've been playing here, let's say, for 5-6 years, and all of a sudden they introduce this trade system.
And for example, if you are signing for 1 year, like, who in Europe signs for more than 1 year?
1+1 is the standard contract.
Only the leader of the team, only the captains of the team, the best players. I don't know, only 20 to 30 players have two year.
How many clubs are here that actually give long-term contracts? I mean, Real Madrid is the prime example. Who else? I mean, Efes.
I remember once Asvel gave 5-year contract to David Lighty,
but I don't think there will be too many teams trading for David Lighty. So
I remember I'm doing the video right now on Milos Teodosic, and he signed a 5-year deal back in 2007 with Olympiacos, and that was one of the weirdest. I'm like, 5-year deal in Europe? How many of those we had? And
because he was a kind of a prospect, I would say. He was young, up-and-coming star, that's why.
Yeah, he was 20 years old.
And it was way more popular concept of contract to sign those guys for very long-term contracts.
And now we don't have those. And you're signing for 1 year and then you get traded after 3 months. It's, I don't know, it's definitely something not the players would like.
Only rich clubs can afford to sign long-term deals, like I said, Real Madrid, one of the examples, and no player who sees an opportunity to increase his value and sign a better contract will commit to a 3 or 4 year deal with teams like Žalgiris, like Bayern Munich, and many others.
And what about,
unless they are local players, like role players?
And one more thought. What about EuroLeague? I think needs to become a closed league to introduce trades.
I agree.
What about if I'm signing for less money to play in Valencia, but I know that I have a chance to actually play, but next season they're relegated to Eurocup because they don't have an A license.
Another thing.
So
exactly.
You need a closed league for this. You need a salary cap. I think it's good that EuroLeague and the EuroLeague head coaches board wants to introduce this.
Yeah.
But I think we are very, it's far away in the future and many problems have to be solved before that.
The thing is that in the NBA, teams do business together. Like one team is interested in building for the future. So obtaining draft picks and players on expiring contracts is good for them. Maybe they want to do a salary dump, get rid of a big contract. And the other team wants to strengthen the roster because they're a title contender. So they exchange assets. In the EuroLeague, every team wants to win because losing doesn't bring you anything good, right? So you only trade when you see value, like we get better at point guard, but we give away a forward, but you're giving it to your direct rival, because in the EuroLeague, every team is a direct rival fighting for a playing spot, for the playoff spot. So because in the NBA, you sometimes just send the player to the different conference and you have no headache because you know you will not meet him in the playoffs and all that stuff. In the EuroLeague, well, you're giving a player to your rival to make them stronger. Maybe you're getting something back. So I don't know. I'm kind of skeptical about this.
A lot of fair questions. I would say. Just on top of that, I will add a couple of reactions coming from players. I didn't see many players actually discussing.
I saw Geoffrey Laverne with vomit reactions.
Yeah, just vomit emoji. Exactly. And there was also Dylan Ennis, who brought a good point.
Yeah.
Imagine coming home after a long practice just to get a call that you've been traded to a different country. Good luck keeping marriages healthy with this. Oh, let's not forget about turning the kids' lives upside down. For imports, this would be a disaster if not done right. There were a lot of comments from fans, of course. No, it takes away the magic of the EuroLeague. Don't try to make EuroLeague like the NBA. Don't ruin it. Copy-paste of the NBA. It won't work because of the reasons we basically mentioned. But the thing is that there were just too many overreactions. First of all, just to clarify, it's not that EuroLeague considers this thing. It's the idea, again, brought by basically one department, coaching department, and it's this idea just taking its baby steps. I tried to reach out to as many people that could be involved in this matter, and I was told by ELPA people that situation is clear. There's no chance that players will move to another place if they won't approve this move. So just in case Team A and Team B approves and agrees, and if player A and player B also approve this move, the deal will happen. I wouldn't call it a trade. It's the same like we're talking about the salary cap in the EuroLeague. There won't be such thing as a salary cap because salary cap includes a lot of different aspects, not just the money that you can spend for contracts, but also, supermax contracts, the rules of the contracts. I would call it a luxury tax that is about to kick in the EuroLeague. I heard some parts of this concept that might be introduced to the EuroLeague in the upcoming years, because there for sure there will be some transition period, and it basically includes some ceiling for salaries, and if you sign a couple players over that ceiling, you have to pay something like a luxury tax that other teams will distribute. So just in case, to help those teams also to grow and to kind of keep some rules of the contracts. Regarding those trades, as I've been told, there's no such idea or hope that players could move without their approval. And the whole thing is just to help out players if they get stuck in situations like Kevin Pangos got stuck in Milan. You could say that Kyle Guy was also at the end of the bench of Panathinaikos quite early into the season, so it was kind of clear that Panathinaikos will try to move him. And the whole idea is just to make this players' movement more dynamic, trying to help them. Because right now we have this very complicated transfer window where it's basically only 1 week to transfer. After the first round, you have few days to move or to be deregistered. And it's the new thing that you can be deregistered before the round 18. And then you can move until February 7th deadline. But no team can afford deregistering one of those, let's say, more important players that you could potentially trade. So the whole idea is just to make this players transfer more dynamic, to help players find their fit, to help coaches in terms of, let's say, making more moves with the roster instead of GMs going with this, I will rather sack the head coach instead of making, few cuts and few new signings. And also for teams, it will be, I would say, efficient in a way where in the current market, it's so hard to find good mid-season signing. The market is thin, first of all. A lot of teams, even from the Eurocup or BCL level, they can put some crazy buyouts. I remember the last year it was mission impossible to buy out Trent Frazier. That was the player from Belgrade FNP. That Žalgiris was interested. The buyout they asked was about €500,000 or something.
Not only Žalgiris, a lot of teams were interested, but
yeah. So it's not just you're basically limited to a limited pool of free agents that might be not at the required level to actually give a boost for the team. So those trades, smart trades, trading some players could help those teams also to improve and to change their situation. So that's about it. That's about helping all the main departments, teams, GMs, head coaches, and players. It's not going to be like in the NBA for sure. And of course, there's also the fourth player in this mix, like media or just general conversation about the EuroLeague. Because if you remember, there was quite an action during this transfer period where a lot of players changed their teams, given the short window to move. And let's imagine if we had few weeks of this transfer window being opened, what kind of talks there would be. The deadline thing would matter way more than right now because they basically put the deadline on January 1st. I mean, we're talking about holidays, so it's not the smartest, day and window to put those deadlines. So, the whole concept, the whole idea is just to help the league, not to play those trade games and put players in uncomfortable situations.
So you had most of the answers, but you still forced us to talk for 10 minutes about it.
That's what he does on this podcast.
The only question that remains is like, if I sign 500,000 euro contract with, Monaco, let's say, as an example, and I get traded to Munich, do I move with the same contract, with the same
I believe that in the ideal world,
should I re-sign
agree on some compensations, some splitting the salary. Basically, the way it works right now, but I think that they just need to improve this whole situation.
I mean, there's some legal stuff that you probably need to talk with the lawyers and everyone before you introduce this thing.
Or you put just more windows when the players can be moved, because we all saw that Kevin Pangos is not going to last long in Milan, for instance. So let's help him. Let's make this first transfer window in the end of November, for instance.
In the end, you had all the answers, so you could have just started with it.
Yeah, but nobody is looking for answers. I mean, this whole topic was brought out on for a few days, and everybody, they were just sharing some reactions. Although nothing has been decided, nothing is going to be decided that quick. Although I was inspired by the motivation of Goran Sasic, to introduce this train system for the upcoming season. I believe it might be too early. We don't have enough time to make those parameters into one place to find the best solution for all parties. And you have to do it basically before the July's meetings. That's not much time, but I believe that for the future, they could improve this situation. For instance, All the ideas are welcomed, and one of my ideas would be just to postpone the transfer window. If we see Žalgiris, having no playing hopes, they could move Keenan Evans easier to some teams that are interested in signing those players and improving their chances to fight for the title, Final Four or top 8.
But hey, trades would be good for media, and the EuroLeague itself.
For the EuroLeague,
NBA have games every day. EuroLeague have games once or twice per week, and if you have trades, you would have much more rumors, and you would have so much more to talk about when those games are not on. So I think EuroLeague also would win a little bit from this. More attention to the EuroLeague.
Yeah, by the way, we kind of clarified the situation about the trade idea yesterday, I think, on BN Insider platform. This is the platform exclusively for BN Plus members, so they get a better, more scoops or a better glimpse of what is happening behind the scenes. So join us on basketnews.com/plus to get those this inside information that is circulating in the EuroLeague. So that's about it, about those trades. Let's get back on the court. And Fenerbahce Partizan was the game that we all watched at some parts of that game. Augustas, what would be your, let's say, thoughts? It was very interesting roller coaster, I would say. Fenerbahce, Partizan built a 19-point lead, right? Or 16-point lead in the first half, basically in the second quarter. And basically, Fenerbahce, they were leading by almost 20 points in the fourth quarter as well.
Yeah, it was such a huge swing. They started, I think, 19-33 result in the second quarter. I'm not sure what was the max
56
advantage.
to 19.
36 to 19. Oh,
lead.
They made another three-pointer after that timeout. Okay. Basically, what happened is Bruno Caboclo just made another game where he makes three-pointers in one quarter. He started off the same way against Bayern Munich in the first game that he signed for the Partizan. Then he had the same, I think, against Žalgiris and another game. And now I think it's the fourth time he makes three-pointers in one quarter. And he just, Fenerbahce were not switching in the first quarter, and he was amazing. But then Fenerbahce regrouped. Fenerbahce started switching basically everything from the second quarter, and as Jasikevicius has done quite many times already, he just simplifies the defense for Fener. Let's just switch, and then we will work out the disadvantages and stuff like that. So I think it was important. One thing to notice, Šara Željko matchup, and there were two highlights for me from this. Papagiannis steps on the court in the middle of the first quarter, plays for 2 minutes. Forgets the set play actually after 2 minutes, but scores on the same possession because he just, I forgot a set play. I will go set a screen. I will roll to the rim and good things happen. He gets a dunk, but Jonathan Motley is already going to sub him in. So this is the standard. This is a reminder of the standard Jasikevicius sets for his players. And of course, Papagiannis then later played in the second quarter and in the second half, but just, if you don't remember a set play after a timeout, especially, you're going to be on the bench pretty soon. So that was a funny moment. And from Željko's side, Partizan were making quite a few defensive errors in the second quarter, and every guy would just raise the hand. Oh, it's my bad. Oh, it's my bad. I should have been here on the weak side. And third, fourth time that this happens, and I see just Željko. Why are you showing me like this? Why just go play defense instead of raising this hand that it's your fault? So it was kind of funny to see these two moments from these two great head coaches. But in the second half, the most important thing was Fenerbahce's small ball lineup. Nate Sestina, Nigel Hayes-Davis were playing at the center, and their two best lineups were Jan Madar, Dorsey, Guduric, Sestina, and either Dyson Pierre or Nigel Hayes-Davis. So none of their three centers actually played, and these two lineups were plus 19 in 9 minutes. So this was the game changer, and Nate Sestina, shout out to him. First great game for him with Fenerbahce jersey this season in the EuroLeague. He had 4 3-pointers this season made, 4 of 23 before yesterday. he made 4 out of 5 against Partizan, and so great game for him. He is climbing from 17% now to 28% in 3-point percentage. So beautiful basketball by Fener overall. I think they're enjoying so far. They're playing really great offense. Of course, Partizan, a lot of mistakes defensively. They need to do a better job on that side of the court if they want to be real contenders. Same
the start of Partizan, right? It was the
start
same
of
last
Partizan,
year.
yeah. So same. In this game, their offense could not outweigh their defensive mistakes. Against Switch All, I think Fenerbahce got better versatility, like attacking not only through the perimeter, but attacking through their bigger wings and just playing some off-ball screens. And Partizan were basically trying to play one-on-one from the perimeter, and it just didn't work. And on defense, Partizan. So
yeah, when they stopped sharing the ball in the second quarter, I think it was one of the key problems. The other key problem was Caboclo getting the third foul in the beginning of the second quarter. He basically got 3 fouls in the span of 3.5 minutes in the end of the first quarter and then the end of the second quarter, and he was important all around, both offensively and defensively. Fenerbahce couldn't handle him at all, and as soon as he was benched, Partizan, they got in this huge hole that led Fenerbahce to close the gap.
But to be honest, I read some comments in the WhatsApp group that the game was decided when Caboclo got that third foul, but this helped Fenerbahce to come back into the game. But in the second half, Caboclo was playing and Partizan were switching with him. He wasn't doing a great job yesterday, like one-on-one defensively. Yes, we saw already some games where Caboclo is really great on the perimeter, but yesterday it wasn't that. He allowed like Guduric to go to his left side. He allowed, I think...
But maybe he was impacted by those, quick calls. Maybe that's what took him out of his rhythm. I mean, I wouldn't agree that it was the major game changer, but for sure it had an impact for the change of the momentum of the game in the second quarter.
Yeah, it had impact in changing the momentum, but in that run that Fener made in the second half, it was a 24-2 run in the 8 minutes and between third and fourth quarter. So I think there he was playing. He didn't do a good job enough defensively. Of course, there is too much wanted from him in Partizan basically, because other guys also need to step up. So, but and one more thing, Tyler Dorsey.
Oh yeah,
wow,
big thing I would say.
What a game! Yeah, I talked for 5 minutes about the game, but I wanted to keep him.
I really thought that you're going to miss him.
No. In the end, I had him as my last note. Dorsey spectacular, some crazy shots, one-on-one. In the first half, he was basically helped by Partizan's lack of concentration defensively. I'm saying again, but they have to do a better job off the ball, Partizan especially. They're giving up advantages too easily, and this creates then a domino effect where you need to help and you are always in behind. And that's just too easy against good teams. And then after Dorsey felt the rhythm, it was over.
First of all, Dorsey benched Caboclo, basically. And I wouldn't agree with those soft calls, but, it's another topic, officiating topic. He benched Caboclo. He also made some tough shots when they started this run in the second quarter, and he was also crucial in that last run in the second half. He scored 24 points. I think it was his consecutive game where he scored over 20-plus points. And again, we're talking about his top 2 high-scoring performances this season. And what I loved about Dorsey, especially in this game, that he was aggressive attacking the rim. I mean, because sometimes he tries to make it easier, to make it in a lazy way, shooting those 3-pointers and etc. I mean, he's doing a good job at this point, at this department. But I think that Šaras needs him and wants him to be more aggressive and to create more opportunities from there for himself and for the other players when they try to help him. But yeah, Dorsey and of course Sestina scoring those 14 points in the second and third quarter alone, where Fenerbahce won this 2-quarter stretch by 16 points. They were just crucial.
Like Šaras even drew up a special after timeout play for Nate Sestina, coming off a corner exit screen, and this is not something we have seen a lot so far during Fenerbahce season, but it was his night. He finally showed that he can he is a shooter. That's why Fenerbahce signed him. So I think he will remember this night and will try to build off of this good performance. I like what Nick Itoudis is actually doing under Saras as well. But hey, we probably need to move to another topic. But just
yeah, we spoke enough about Itoudis, I think. We spoke enough good words about him. What was your impression, Rytis? I know that you were cooking something when the game was on.
I was just, I got back home after Žalgiris game and I was just preparing pasta, slicing onions, and I don't think that's the
best environment for analysis.
I don't think, I can provide any quality analysis watching a game while slicing onions, garlic, preparing cheese and cooking pasta. So
that's what usually the people do in the comment section, you know.
Well,
they watch the game that way.
That's how this game works, actually.
I'm kind of self-aware.
This is what happens, I think. Sorry to interrupt you, but this is, I think, what happens. Why people are saying every game is decided by the referees, because you are not watching the game. You know, that closely. So you see one questionable foul and you're like, oh my God, this referee is EuroLeague Mafia. Oh my God. I see these tweets every day. It's crazy. Like, can you just please guys stop? And
no, they won't stop, man. They will. No, you can.
There always need this conspiracy that prevents our team from winning. Yeah, so you know, it's always gonna be there somewhere.
Bad decisions happen. Like, I agree. Even yesterday, I was like, how is this an unsportsmanlike foul against Žalgiris, against Valencia in the third or fourth quarter? But the referees don't decide games; players do on the court.
Yeah, and I'm self-aware. I don't like speaking about something if I don't feel confident. I can bring any good takes. Like you provided good, solid analysis. My input is not needed here. I saw some moments, like I saw Sestina's shots and all that, but more or less I was just listening to our commentators. So, yeah. Anyway, yeah, that was a game that had a lot of swings. Let's say in the first half, it seemed like Kevin Punter's hot, but then in the second half, he's cold. They didn't allow him to score anymore, and another well-deserved win for Fenerbahce.
By the way, I think first of all, I addressed this officiating question for those concerned about EuroLeague Mafia. I addressed this question to Paulius Matiūnas. Again, watch this interview on BasketNews YouTube channel. Another good reason to become BN Plus subscriber. All of our BN Plus members had a chance to address the questions and the topics they were concerned about to Paulius Matiūnas, and I actually brought up like 5 or 6 questions coming from BN Plus community. So basketnews.com/plus. Just the last question about Fenerbahce. I think we covered it pretty well with Rytis already when Saras took over. But in 7 games, Fenerbahce won 6 games. According to Bibalytics, I've checked that during Saras' tenure, let's say in Saras' era, Fenerbahce delivers the best offensive rating, according to Bibalytics, the best true shooting percentage, the best rebounding percentage, and the best assists average. And these are major changes. For instance, under Itoudis, they were 13th offensively, and they were 17th by rebounding percentage. But my question to Augustas would be, what was the major change you noticed when Saras took over? One big thing. Is there such thing?
One big thing?
Yeah. The biggest thing that stuck to your mind?
I don't know. A lot of small details, I would say. Not one big thing. Definitely the lineups, the rotations have changed. But overall, I believe that Saras haven't like installed one huge thing. You know, you see the 5-out offense with Motley, with off-ball screening action that they played for Vesely when he was in Barcelona. But they don't use that often. I think they have really great balance right now. I think the players... Okay, now that I started talking, maybe the biggest thing is that the players' mood, I would say, in the team. They look like they're way more happier right now. Mainly because I don't think, Jasikevicius is better than Itoudis. I'm not comparing those two at the moment, but it's simply because of the change. And all the players seem to be concentrated, focused. I think they needed this fresh start. Everybody wants to play their best at the moment because they want to have a bigger role. And I think this is what is impacting Fenerbahce the most at this moment. There are some changes in the set play, some special situations, but Itoudis also had that. I just think there is maybe a little bit more ball movement when talking about things on the court. So I think Jasikevicius are changing small details, but overall the mood of players are really, changing the picture at the moment. But the sample size is so small, those numbers can be inflated really easily. So you kind of probably will have to compare after the regular season, those numbers.
I just think that he took over a team that was already good, but it maybe needed some improvements. Like they were not on a losing streak. They weren't in crisis. They were unbeaten at home. So he just took over a good team in order to maybe improve certain areas to make them even better, to help them get that extra step, let's say. And we see that happening right now. Of course, there's still a long way to go. There's still a lot of games in the regular season. But it's just the quality. Like what I like so far is their rebounding. They didn't look like a good rebounding team before. But ever since Šaras took over, even in the very first game versus Monaco, you could already see an improvement in rebounding department, which is huge. I think that like rebounding is key. Being a good rebounding team already helps you to set the rhythm of the game and all that stuff, and second chances offensively.
And rebounding
these are my thoughts.
And
so
rebounding
far.
is what, energy plus fundamentals.
Yeah,
but
exactly.
If you lack energy,
it's not like schemes or any.
No,
also responsibility of each player on the court.
Emphasizing this, but mostly it's players, focus, the boxing out and the energy, first and foremost. And if you're not happy playing under one coach, you suddenly have a new coach and you have more energy, you have more will, you have desire. You're winning when you are on the court. Your overall mood is better. So, they started off good and they're building off of that, kind of like what Valencia did, I think, at the start of the season.
Yeah, and since I mentioned Itoudis, according to SDNA, Itoudis is the front runner to replace Erdemjan if Efes decides to fire the head coach. And I remember I actually checked out my WhatsApp history and I got this, I would call it scoop that, hey, watch out because Efes is considering a coaching change and Itoudis might be the guy. I got it like in the end of December and I was like, come on, man. They have so many injuries. Usually they stay close in those games against big teams. I mean, why? I mean, it feels like that we're here behind this table. We're bigger Erdemjan believers if we could combine all the Turkish fans in Turkey and watching their perspective of Erdemjan. But okay, I'm not trying to set a narrative for this discussion, but Itoudis replacing Erdemjan, in or out, gentlemen?
Well, I'm not out about the idea that Itoudis could be a great coach for Efes, but I'm out with the idea of firing Erdemjan. Like, if you're trusting a new head coach to build something, maybe you need patience and just to look at the circumstances he's dealing with injuries. Just recently, they had a crazy 4 overtime record-breaking game in Madrid. They were so close to beating Madrid in visiting center. They were one shot away, or maybe one good possession away in the second overtime and the third overtime.
+9.
So it's kind of unfair to the coach you have right now, and it again brings up the discussion about EuroLeague, where every team wants to be in the playoffs, where every game matters, and you might make a coaching change even for a short-term effect. You're not building a team like in the NBA where the coach is, let's say, growing together with the roster. So, I don't know, man. I think Erdemjan is a promising head coach, and I wouldn't want to see him losing his job. And of course, they're losing games. It doesn't help in the standings. You look at the standings and you see that Efes is kind of far away from the top 6, and you're thinking about the playing at best, but honestly, I'm out, and it has nothing to do with Itoudis. Or you could throw any other name like Itoudis, Parasovic, any other coach that could be considered. Like I would like to see Erdem Can keeping his job, and that's it.
I'm out too, to be honest. I'm out too, and I've already said it on Twitter. But just, do you know how many players have suited and played for Efes in the EuroLeague for at least one game?
You mean different players?
Different players that have played at least one game for Efes.
18 maybe?
16?
17.
17.
Okay.
17 players. Valencia have 19.
How many played all games, actually?
2 guys.
Wow, 2 guys.
Shane Larkin and Darius Thompson are the only guys who played 20 games. Tyreek Jones, 19. He missed...
He injured his shoulder in Madrid.
Yeah, he missed yesterday's game. Wow. Then after this, we have Rodrigue Bourbois at 16 only. And Justus Hall at 15.
But he's playing 8 minutes per game, so
yeah.
we're actually talking about 4 core players that played most of the games. And others, they basically almost miss 50% of the games.
Yeah, Will has
and
played.
And we're talking about important players like Will Clyburn, before it was Ante Žižić, Derek Willis, Elijah Bryant, Tibor Plyce. So I agree that definitely Efes's wins and losses are below their standard, below what they have on the roster. But you can't ignore the fact of how many injured guys they have. You can't ignore the fact of how many players are coming and going from this team. Like, they have guys that played only in the domestic league in this season. Like Daniel Oturu, fantastic signing. He's played 9 games in the EuroLeague for them. But he was playing in the Turkish domestic league just this season. Derek Willis is coming from the Euro Cup. He had to play center position yesterday against Matthias Lesort because... After missing like a few weeks of action.
Dan Oturu gets a second foul in the first quarter, gets a technical on top of that. EuroLeague did not show us what he said or did. I did not really understand that technical foul. But all of a sudden, it's Derek Willis against Matthias Lesort in the post. What can you do? The help has to come, and Marius Grigonis all of a sudden is making 3-pointers. Yes, they have some problems. Defensively, sometimes they lacked yesterday, but against Real Madrid, they were great. I just, think that Erdem Can is having that Sarunas Jasikevicius type of moment in Žalgiris when Žalgiris lost 9 games
in a
row. Efes haven't lost that many games in a row, but I think they're struggling. But from what I've seen, he has all the right things. He has his players playing hard. He has great sets. Some people were mentioning that, okay, but he's taking off good players when they're hot. Yeah, maybe he does that sometimes because, like I said about Charas, you make one mistake that you make one big mistake and he's going to sub you. But I think Efes have to be patient with this coach. I think he has a great future, and taking into consideration what they went through this season, I'm also out of Itoudis replacing Itoudis or any other coach replacing Erdem Can.
To be fair, we shouldn't even talk about Itoudis. We should just be talking whether we're in or out about the coaching change in Efes, because it's kind of unfair to Dimitris Itoudis to talk about him when he actually has nothing to do with it. It's just a rumor being spread.
And at the same time, the reason that Itoudis is free is something that actually inspires teams to think and consider coaching changes. That's also another part of a coaching change market. If there's somebody on the market, something as big as Sarunas Jasikevicius was for Fenerbahce, if he wasn't there, I believe that Fenerbahce would have kept Itoudis, and if Itoudis was not available right now, maybe Efes would have different thoughts. But it's so there are a lot of aspirations to make this coaching change, because at the same time, from the market perspective, in the off season there might be more teams that will be looking for the head coach, and maybe if Itoudis is your target at the head coach, if he's somebody that you believe that could guide the team, maybe it's the only window when you can actually get him. But I'm the one who supports new coaches. I like new faces in this closed circle that we have in the EuroLeague. And as somebody mentioned in the comments under the trade topic, we actually have trades. We have coach trades, actually. Coaches are moving the places, switching teams, and I would like to encourage guys like Erdem Can. I mean, he's a hard worker. He has different mindsets, interesting ideas, and he just needs time, especially under these circumstances. Because we already mentioned all those reasons why they might be not meeting somebody's standards.
But their own standards, let's be clear.
Own standards as the club. At the same time, we have to understand that, this peak Efes, it's already a history, and they're about to reduce the budget, to make some cuts. Of course, they should be in a better position than right now, but it is what it is. I tried to look at some positives what Erdem Can brought, and actually, I would say that Shane Larkin is playing his best basketball since this COVID season, when he was clear MVP, and just this COVID stopped him from getting an award. And
he would be an MVP candidate right now if his team was winning.
Yeah, and if his team was healthy, and if it was winning. And of course, it's a big credit to Erdem Can because he decided to build a team around Shane Larkin. And there are a lot of people who are saying that, Darius Thompson could be utilized in a different way. But at the same time, a lot of emphasis on Shane Larkin and for him to be the perfect version of himself, which he is doing on the court. It's all about different pieces. I see arguments behind. You mentioned that his players are playing hard, but I would say they're not playing hard enough. And I think that they have the problem that maybe Fenerbahce had with Itoudis, with all these little details, with defensive assignments, with smart fouls, with rebounding, because they have a last defensive rating in the EuroLeague. And, it was something that was not clicking from the start of the season. So you might say that he's not demanding enough in a way to fulfill those small details into the perfection. But we're talking about the new EuroLeague head coach, so you have to be patient.
Did this team play better defense last season?
They weren't.
It was impossible to play worse defense than they did last year. Probably
they weren't known for their defense even when they were winning titles.
It doesn't make sense to compare those teams, I believe.
Yeah, I know everybody agrees that they should be better defensively, and probably the coach wants to see them better. But they weren't a defensive-minded team even when they were winning titles. I mean, they had potential.
But they were not worst defensive rating in the league when they were actually winning games.
No, they weren't worst. Yeah, of course they weren't worst. I'm just saying, watching Efes, I don't have that feeling like they gave up. I don't have the feeling that they have a problem with the coach. That game in Madrid is a very good example to me. They wanted to win that game desperately. They did everything to win that game. During the game, maybe there was some luck involved because Madrid just couldn't make shots. It was more about Madrid not making shots than Efes playing some excellent defense. But still, you were in a position to beat the current EuroLeague champions away from home. And I don't have the feeling like they gave up. That's why I'm saying that I wouldn't change the head coach, but I know how this business works. We said more or less the same things about Žalgiris and Coach Maksvytis. We don't want to see a coaching change happening, but eventually it happened.
And I believe it's hard for the owner or the GM to have this, mental transition from being a champion, back-to-back champion, one of the most dominant teams in the EuroLeague history, to somebody which is failing to be in the top 8 circle for the consecutive season, and especially having this transition season like this year. And sometimes, just like in Žalgiris' case, when they made it to the top 8 and they thought that they're top 8 team, which is not. But when you look at facts, they lost 5 straight, but the biggest deficit that they had was 7 points against Panathinaikos and Baskonia. So they're always close. So I don't know, but that's not our call. Tony Parker did a call on coaching department, and not just he fired, they parted ways with Gianmarco Pozzecco, but Tony Parker also had some harsh statements on media. Anything that surprised you? Anything that made you think, brought you some ideas about this whole parting ways process?
I don't know why is it necessary to make it public, your disappointment with the coach, like he didn't follow some agreements that you had. Well, okay, you fired him. It was your decision. We respect that, but is it really needed to go out in the media to say all those things? I'm not really sure. It seemed weird because Podseko was fired after winning a game and finally breaking that losing streak. And you could sense in his interview after post-game that it was his last game because he already started giving credits to all his assistant coaches and everybody in the club. So you could see even from his face that he realizes it's probably his last game. But what Tony Parker said, I mean, I don't get one thing. Like he says, like fighters never quit, and it was so sad to see him quit. And the other part that he didn't trust the young players and he played a short rotation. Well, you build a team from veterans. What young players are we talking about? Yatsov? I mean, the guy has problems bringing the ball up the court. So,
and since when they actually care so much about young players? They lost Wembanyama, they lost Risasher, and Matthew Sturgill also.
I remember
left the
Tony
team.
Parker fired Zvezda Mitrovic because he didn't play Theo Maledon enough. So maybe it's something like that. But who are those young players we're talking about? Who are they? What young players were kept on the bench that could actually add quality to the team? And the next day after you fire your head coach complaining he didn't play young guys, you signed Deshaun Thomas. Is he that young guy you're going to play now? Like, I don't know. It's a veteran team. You could see the roster. It's a veteran team. They are underperforming this season. I think, judging by the quality that they have in the roster, they're better than the standings might show. But the thing about a fighter that never quits, Tony Parker trusted his brother for so long to coach that team, even though they were losing games. They were hopeless in some moments. In EuroLeague, they were like an easy target for everybody. And you trusted him for so long, and only this season you finally made a decision to change the coach. And it didn't last long, and now you're complaining. I don't really get that. Why is it necessary? I don't know what kind of agreements they had between each other that Podseko maybe didn't respect or didn't follow. It's on them. But we just heard one side. We didn't really hear a response from Gianmarco Podseko. We know that their primary target was Gordy Herbert, the German national team coach, but they just couldn't reach an agreement, so they went with Podseko.
And that's why I don't see any reason why you should claim to everyone like he did. We took the risk of signing someone we didn't know and who wasn't my first choice. Everyone knows that we wanted Gordon Herbert. We had to take a coach because there weren't many people on the market. Why have to downplay Podseko and disrespect him so much, trying to show that, oh, we want, it's like divorcing with your girlfriend or wife and saying she wasn't my option. I mean, she wasn't my option, just for everybody to know, that's why I was looking for something way better, way bigger. I mean, it's so unnecessary. It's so unprofessional. Why you need to look Podseko bad in this context? I mean, there were a lot of interesting things, like he was surprised with Podseko using a short rotation. That's his selling card. I mean, he was using short rotations in Sassari Dinamo and in the Italy national team. So you didn't do your scouting well enough when you were signing Podseko. And actually, if you're complaining that you didn't get your first option, that's your problem. That means that you're a bad recruiter if you didn't manage to sign Gordon Herbert.
And if you only have one option, like you only have one candidate that you need and all the others.
And the other was someone who you fired after usually, 43 days or whatever?
Usually you should be better prepared. Like, okay, you parted ways with TJ Parker, and then you decided that you want Gordon Herbert, and then you try to have talks and failed.
I just have higher standard for owners like Tony Parker. I always respected him. I admired his career. To me, he looked like somebody who has a different mentality, different approach, who is way more innovative. I liked things he did with Asfel, especially a few years ago, building the project, also getting this long-term license, trying to develop a youth academy, Tony Parker's academy. I really liked and still like a lot of things he did. But this situation, I mean, from the last 3 head coaches, he's slamming 2 of them so hard publicly, and the one who wasn't slammed was his brother. And, you know, there were a lot of reasons to criticize his brother, and he didn't say a word about him. So,
Hey.
I mean, to me, this is a high level of hypocrisy, and just though his remarks, his critiques for addressed to Gianmarco Pacheco looked unfair.
Those comments were unnecessary. And I just opened their roster. I don't really watch Asvel that much in the French league, but I opened their roster in the EuroLeague, the players they have registered for EuroLeague. So the young guys we're talking about, Noam Yatsov, Mbai Njai. The rest are born in 1995 or earlier. So they only have 2 young players. Yatsov, a point guard, like I said, when I saw him in some games, well, it seems like it's tough for him to bring the ball up the court. So what are we talking about? And the other guy is Mbai Njai, who's a big guy, but as big as you already have Yusuf Afal, Geoffrey Lovern, John Ekbunu, Mike Scott. So you have enough body. So what young players are we talking about? What young players didn't get the opportunities?
I don't know. I think it's embarrassing in the first place to trash a coach that you sign after firing another one just 2 months before. So he was your choice. So you're basically, in my eyes, you are trashing your own choices. So I don't know why you need to do that publicly. I think in life, if you are separating with someone, doesn't matter relationship from work or whatever, you don't really need to do anything publicly, because you never know how that might end up. You might need to call that person to ask for a favor later, and doing this is just, I think it's embarrassing from Tony Parker.
But I mean, there's nothing wrong to do mistakes. Just take responsibility and just move on. And as results show, I mean, they beat Zvezda with the new coach.
Yeah, they're on a 2-game winning streak. They're on a 2-game winning streak.
They beat Žalgiris with Pacheco there too. I loved what Pacheco said before that game. Coach, what do you need to do before this game to win against Žalgiris and to win the first game actually in Villarman this season in the EuroLeague? He's just like this, smile, belief, belief. Only belief can help us. And he was so hopeless already at the moment. It was so funny to watch.
In a halftime interview, he said, like, what do you need to do to maintain the lead or something like that? Play basketball.
Play basketball. I think he knew before.
Okay,
that.
but
I think he knew before that.
Now the assistant coach who took over probably as an interim coach used all 12 players on the roster. None of these guys are young, actually, except from Noam Yatsov, but he still used all of them. John Ekbunu played 56 seconds, so it counts. He used him.
Kahudi was one of the best players on the court. He's a young guy, no?
I think he's about to get drafted.
Yeah. I mean, it's rare when... just the last point, I think that maybe there's something behind it. And I'm not talking about Pacheco, whatever he did wrong or if there was something bad. Still, you don't need to go at your coach, at your former coach, at your selection, at your choice, so harsh on media. But maybe, Tony had some responsibilities for sponsors. We saw news that they didn't manage to fill up the new arena that they built. Maybe there were a lot of hopes. Maybe his ass is burning at the moment. So that what kind of led him to some irrational comments, some emotional comments. Still, it's not an excuse, but maybe there's something that caused this phase, that made this phase of Tony Parker. But yeah, it's rare when French teams make headlines, just like Monaco did with as well, with suspending Elie Okobo this weekend. Before hearing your reactions, just wanted to clarify facts behind this suspension. So the thing is that Okobo had a conflict with a player of Monaco. Twitter spies recognized that it was Donatas Motiejunas. They were having some, how could I call it, some vocal disagreements during the game. There was nothing physical. Some speculated that there was some fight in the locker room. Nothing like that. It just the top of the iceberg for Okobo, because from the beginning of the season, I heard that there were certain level of concern regarding his body language, his effort, the way he was communicating with his players or reacting in some bad situations. And the team just decided to draw a line to suspend him indefinitely for uncertain period of time, which could last for another game or two, like in Mike James' case last season, and maybe it's a wake-up signal for Okobo, because he already got a wake-up signal from Vincent Collet, if you remember, following the World Cup. I think it was a timeout where Collet actually directly addressed his player, saying like, just don't do like Elie Okobo is doing something. You know, he was also unhappy with his body language already in the national team. So this was some ongoing problem that Monaco tried to solve. But how do you think that this might impact Elie Okobo? What do you think about the first half of his season and this whole situation?
Well, the first half of his season is kind of disappointing. His numbers dropped compared to last season. And we know that Monaco played basically without Jordan Lloyd. So they needed help from Elie Okobo. Kemba Walker is just playing some sporadic minutes. Sometimes he scores points, but you don't count on him to be the second option, the next guy to Mike James. So basically, the help that Elie Okobo provided so far wasn't enough. As I said, his numbers dropped. Last season, he was averaging 12 points per game, 12 in PIR. His shooting percentages were better. This season, he's only shooting 30% from free, although he's still playing 25, 26 minutes per game. Maybe it has something to do that he's a little bit tired, both mentally and physically, because during the last 2 years, he didn't have any rest. He played so many games. He went to deep French League playoff runs with Aswell when they won the title. Then he joined the national team. He just played so many basketball games during the last two calendar years. So maybe this break will turn out good for him and he will be back better. But thus far, he hasn't been delivering. Honestly, he's been kind of disappointing. Although the team is doing okay. Now they play the game without him and Jordan Lloyd is back, but he will need time to get back to his rhythm, to his shape. This first game after being out for a long time was tough on him, but they managed to win it. So, yeah, we'll see how long it lasts. It's an unusual situation, you would say, but Monaco was in a situation like this last year with Mike James. So
it's usual in Monaco.
We'll see how they deal with it. I mean, they have players this year that actually improved from last season. If you look at the stats, like Alpha Diallo, John Brown, and they have Elie Okobo, who is underperforming at the same time. So,
although he had, I would say, a high way to perform because Jordan Lloyd was already out in the preseason. He's still in and out. Kemba is Kemba. We know his situation. So Monaco needed him to deliver. Okobo was getting his minutes. Mike James was sharing his role. So he had a great opportunity, to deliver at the highest level. And I really believe that Okobo is a very skilled player, great player with the EuroLeague star potential. He just needs to do to make some differences with his mentality, with his approach, and he will make this switch to reach the elite level, I would say.
Hopefully he'll learn his lesson, whatever that is. Player. They're dealing with it internally, so hopefully he will learn from this.
And there's a lot of hope in the club as well, regarding his future, regarding his potential. So he has all perfect situation, to perform. It's up to him to make this change.
Last season, when they made it to the Final Four, that fourth quarter lineup with three guards, Lloyd, James, and Okobo, offensively, it could be unstoppable. It has so much potential. So this season, we haven't seen it yet because Lloyd was injured. Okobo wasn't performing very well. Now Okobo is suspended. But maybe now, after a week or two, finally, they will have all the players ready and Mike James will have more help because at the moment, he's carrying a huge load. Like even yesterday, he basically had to win the game for his team by making the right plays, and he did. So
at the moment, he's playing best basketball in the EuroLeague. I think.
Well, he is to me the front runner for the MVP award, but there's still a long way to go.
Yeah, but just talking about Okobo, I think it's you mentioned that it's probably not the season for him to do that because he's playing below his level. But I think at the same time, him not playing at his level prior levels, what he did in Nashville or what he played, how he played last season in Monaco, I think this could also have influenced his reaction, let's say, to his teammates. He's a little bit disappointed. I don't know whether it was to the Kemba move that they signed another backcourt guard, or is it like because he's not playing to his level? So he's disappointed in his performances, and maybe he's lashing out on his teammates because of that, because that's how, unconsciously it sometimes works. So I hope he deals with it, because Monaco definitely needs him to make a deep playoff run to be a contender for the Final Four. And so, hoping he can come back and they can come back to winning.
Honestly, I just checked. He was averaging 26 minutes per game last year, and he's averaging 25.5 minutes per game this year. So it's the same.
But it's also
he's getting the same opportunities.
But minutes and usage rate, I would say,
okay, we should look at we should look at that, to be fair. But he's still taking shots.
Right.
But and Lloyd is probably missing more games than last year, or at least I have this image.
I don't think that Kemba Walker signing should affect him that much. Like, maybe it has something to do, like I said.
We're just trying to speculate what goes on in Okobo's head, but maybe Mike is playing so good and he's seeing that, and I'm like, oh, I'm not performing at my level, and that's why I'm a little bit unhappy at my situation, just because of how I'm playing myself. So
every player goes through some tough moments in his career, and we're still talking about a young player. Maybe it's new to him. It's unusual because when he signed in Europe, he signed with Asvel. Immediately in the first season, he was great. Immediately, people started talking about him. Then he signed with Monaco. He also had a good first year. They made it to the Final Four, so it's maybe unusual to him, and maybe you get frustrated and all that. But I don't know. I'm not in that locker room. I don't have conversations with these players. I don't want to speculate too much.
The last topic for Žalgiris fans. Andrea Trinchieri and Žalgiris reached, I would say, a statement win, because it's not easy to win in Valencia. We saw teams like Monaco, Fener, Maccabi, Virtus losing on that court. It was another typical last year Žalgiris victory with Keenan Evans turning into crunch time. Keenan Evans and winning this game against Valencia, although he was close of actually maybe potentially losing the game with the late technical foul. Actually, it was a very interesting and quality call from the referees.
Yeah, it's good for Žalgiris.
I hate those calls. I'm sorry, read this.
But you cannot kick somebody in his balls. I mean, he kicked.
But he wasn't trying to do that.
I mean,
I don't know. When you are shooting that fadeaway shot and jumping, it's a natural motion for you to kick that leg. And I hate that call, the same call in the NBA. Some players, when they're exaggerating on this, okay. But that is natural shooting motion. And I don't understand that rule, because whether you are going right or left, you are going to kick one leg if you're shooting a fadeaway. Same happens with Marcus Howard, Mike James, and all that stuff. Everybody's kicking the leg when they're shooting that type of shot. So I don't understand that technical
I don't know. In a lot of situations, you can see a lot of players doing it on purpose. So.
They should be happy they got a technical and not an offensive foul.
And 2 free throws?
That's right. That's the way someone lost the game. I don't remember
Valencia
the team.
last year against Asvel, or
Asvel Bayern Munich. That was the game where I think Laverne went for the shot, and he was called for the foul, and Giffey was sent to the line.
And actually Valencia lost the game this way last year. Harper was shooting, and I think he fouled Okobo by kicking him, and he just made 2 free throws.
Could be. So
in the same gym.
So in this case, they called it technical, which was better for Žalgiris, because after the shot, it was nobody's ball. And actually, what I saw in the replay, like after the shot, fighting for the rebound, Ulana was kind of pushed Inglis. So it's really possible that if there was no technical foul call, Ulana would get that call on Inglis, and Inglis would go to shoot 2 free throws. So in a way, that technical foul didn't hurt Žalgiris as much as they could be hurt with the other call. But I'm not sure if I agree with you about that. Is it a natural move, like to kick your leg out like this? I mean, Jovic is really close to you, but Jovic doesn't do anything bad. So either you leave things as they are, or you react to it somehow. Because I saw players many times pointing fingers at Keenan Evans that he's kind of flopping a bit, looking for these fouls, and he gets fouled on the 3-point line almost
often,
every game at least once. So I don't know.
It's on this particular moment. He's going sideways. The rim is there, and he's receiving the ball like this, and he's turning his whole body for 19 degrees. So I think for 90 degrees, I don't think that's possible. But anyway, what did you think about Semi Ojeleye shot there against Brady Manick? Like Chris Jones doesn't even touch the ball in the most important possession.
I mean,
of the game.
Ojeleye against Manick is not the worst matchup to have.
But to shoot
not in
a
this way.
three-pointer after the
you don't
dribble.
need to shoot a three-pointer.
Trinchieri said he was happy with that because he saw that shot had no rhythm.
Of course.
I would say, I agree with you. I would like to see Chris Jones with the ball in his hands, but maybe it was like Valencia expected Žalgiris to foul, and then Ojeleye saw that Manick is not going to foul him, so I'm just taking that shot. I mean, it's good that you at least had a 3-point attempt in the situation where you're down by 3. Was it the best shot you could get? It's questionable, for sure. Like it felt like it had no rhythm, as Trinchieri said. Although Manick kept distance, and it wouldn't be a miracle if Ojeleye hit that shot. But
anyway, Keenan Evans and his performance absolutely spectacular. Some of the threes he made was out of this world. Just Damian Inglis was right in his face for some of those threes. He still nailed those. Performance, what we have seen, last year from him in the fourth quarter. This season, his clutch performances were kind of missing, especially like in the last 3 minutes of the games. Žalgiris lost a lot of close games. This was finally a win in the last minutes. Andrea Trinchieri is slowly but surely changing Žalgiris' face. The full court pressure defense made Brandon Davis the playmaker in the first quarter. A lot of different some new special set plays for after timeouts for the guys. I enjoyed watching. I love that he's using Lukas Lekavičius way more. Even though Dovydas Giedraitis was again back in the starting lineup yesterday, but Lukas Lekavičius just gives Žalgiris that ability to drive to the rim, the constant pressure to the paint that Žalgiris didn't have. Like even yesterday, Keenan Evans, 6 3-pointers, if I'm not mistaken. He made 6 3-pointers. He's not the guy to drive to the rim constantly and make kick-out passes. Lukas Lekavičius can do that. So I really missed that in Žalgiris' game, and I'm loving that he's back in the rotation and back playing. And
Lekavičius is the third best scorer in Žalgiris under Trinchieri, averaging almost 9 points per game.
Still a small sample size, but you can see the increase in minutes and usage
and
everything.
He's playing the last minutes of the game as well. So
quite a lot of minutes with Keenan Evans. I mean, Evans doesn't have to bring the ball up the court.
Exactly. And I said this after the first game. If Lucas is playing more as a point guard, you have Keenan Evans that is more fresh in the fourth quarter. And maybe yesterday that played a part too.
I mean, this season, even though Žalgiris is losing more than winning, Evans still has some clutch plays. Like he got Žalgiris the overtime in Istanbul. He got the game-winning shot versus Bayern Munich. And in this game, he hit those 2 big threes. I think in the second half, it was more of Valencia's game. In the first half, it seemed like Žalgiris controlled the rhythm. They got to the free throw line a lot. They were always leading the game. But in the second half, it seemed like Valencia's game, the way they love playing this season. Physical game, slow the tempo down a little bit, use your advantages, you exploit the mismatches. And they were doing that, and they got the lead, and they were leading in the fourth quarter as well. But then Keenan Evans' time came. A lot of things happened. I mean, Schmidt's unsportsmanlike foul, Žalgiris with a 4-point lead for 2 or 3 possessions in a row just couldn't score and make it a bigger lead and be more comfortable with it at the end of the game. Brady Manick, you don't expect him to show up in the clutch, but he read the situation perfectly where Davis slipped. So he found that space to drive to the basket, and while driving, he stopped avoiding an offensive foul because Chris Jones was already there. If you bump bodies, probably you get an offensive foul, but he just stopped and he took that sweet, soft touch to score a very important 2-pointer. So a lot of things happen. As you said, Trinchieri is implementing new things. We see new rotations. They still don't have practices together, so it's hard for the head coach. But I also love the way he's using Laurynas Birutis. I think it's the way that a big guy is supposed to be used in today's game. You're bringing the best out of him in the first quarter, in the second quarter. You start the third quarter with him to go strong for 4 or 5 minutes, but he's not going to be your center in the fourth quarter. You make up your mind whether you play with Schmitz or Hayes, but definitely Birutis is a guy you need to use for the first 3 quarters. So yeah, it's a great win in general. I mean, we saw Žalgiris losing so many games of that manner this year. Like they get to the last minutes and they just don't win. And honestly, with that, Evans technical foul call, you're the guy who plays the game from the 3 of us. I mean, when I go for a jump shot, I don't really jump. So you know it better. I should trust your opinion more, probably. Yeah.
By the way, it was another drama in Valencia. I checked it from 12 games that they played at home. Except from one 14-point loss to Baskonia, average margin of those 11 games in Valencia was 5 points. We're talking about 5-point difference.
They lost.
The biggest loss was by 7 points or 9 points, I guess. So it's a drama material every time Valencia plays at home.
Did you catch Valencia Panathinaikos, or at least the last minute of the game? No?
No. They lost by 1
They lost by 1 point, but the way they lost, actually.
It was this foul on Davis Matias Lesor situation?
Yep.
That was crazy.
That was a foul. Basically, it's a defensive... They miss a shot for a potential game winner. The game is tied.
Oh, yeah.
And it's a defensive rebound. And Davis and Lesor just goes for it from the 3-point line. And they both fall down. And Valencia get a foul called on Brandon Davis because he kind of touches the arm maybe of Matias Lesor, but it's like 1.5 seconds remaining or 2 seconds remaining.
It's a very unclear situation.
It's a very 50-50 situation in my eyes. And so Matias Lesor just goes to the free throw line and wins the game for Pau in La Fonteta. And so that was one of the crazy endings I saw. But I know we want to finish the podcast, but I wanted to shout out Pau and praise their defense. They're really surprising me with their defense this season. They have the 3rd best defensive rating. I think they're great on rotations. On the weak side, they're super active. They're very energetic. And before the season, we talked about they're playing with 3-guard lineup. They have Marius Grigonis at the small forward position, but they have a really solid, defensive stance. I love what they're doing. Not a lot of teams are taking advantage of this. And even if they do, they have such great rotations, double teams from help sides. They're really communicating. I don't see many mental errors. And that's what's telling me that Pau can go really strong this season.
To wrap things up, wanted to say 2 things. First of all, it was nice to see Kevin Pangos playing again. Another guy who can score from the pick and roll for Valencia. And Mumbrú will still have to figure out which lineups he's going to use with Pangos, but it's nice to see him back on the court with a new team. And the second thing, just that I listened to your conversation with Jabari Parker, a great interview in my opinion.
Thanks, man.
Would you say it ranks at the top shelf of the interviews you had with EuroLeague players? Because to me, it was awesome.
I would say I have a tier list of interviews I have, but definitely I would put it on the top.
Yeah.
Because, of course, a lot of comes from Jabari himself, the way he decided to open up in some situations. And, of course, when it goes beyond basketball, when those conversations goes beyond basketball, it's always these conversations are the best. So, yeah, I was surprised and at the same time astonished by the way Jabari carried himself in this interview. There were a lot of stuff as well from Barca. As I said, for the 3rd time already, Paulius Motiejunas on interview is already on the internet, on Basket News YouTube channel. Just press like, subscribe us, and see you very soon.